Hello and welcome to the Home Edify podcast. My name is Kristin Malphrus. Edify means to teach or instruct so as to improve the mind and character. And here we're going to talk about what it takes to raise resilient, courageous, lifelong learners. I am so excited that you have joined us for this conversation. Go get you a drink. Imagine you're sitting at my kitchen table. I want you to feel like you are absolutely a part of this conversation. This is the last episode of season 1. So stick around. Season 2, I'm working on it currently. But this is the finale, and I'm so excited to share it with you. Today, I am interviewing Jessica Human with We Chose Adventures. Jessica is an incredible human being. She's a travel photographer. She's worked with brands like Merrill and LL Bean. Her work is absolutely stunning. But more than that, she is a homeschool mom who is traveling full-time with her 3 boys across the country, across the world. And it is so cool to hear her stories and hear how homeschooling has been such a beneficial thing for her family and for her kids. It was so encouraging to hear her wisdom and insight, and I know that you are just going to be encouraged as well. So let's get to it. Jessica, how did you even get into this type of lifestyle? What led to this drastic decision?
You know, it's so funny because it was like never on my radar ever, ever, ever. Like I literally was like, yeah, I'm going to go get a big important job. And of course my kids will go to school because I went to public school and I loved it. And I started out that way and working in a corporate job, long hours. My kids were in like a nice preparatory preschool and everything. And we were just miserable. It was just exhausting, just working all day just to come home and make dinner. I saw my kids for like an hour a day before I put them to bed. And it was just miserable. And so we decided we needed to make a change and we started, baby steps. We're like, okay, this crazy work schedule isn't working. So I stopped working, to be home with my kids. And we're like, okay, well, this whole away at preschool thing isn't working. So, we got rid of that, started doing home preschool. We were like, oh, we like the outdoors. Let's kind of add more to that to our lives. And it just kind of steamrolled into this, well, now let's sell our house and travel and let's homeschool. And it was just been a big, crazy, awesome thing.
It's awesome. So how big of a jump? Did it feel daunting jumping from traditional schooling to what you're doing now?
Yes, absolutely. So my oldest, I started in school because of course I was like, obviously he'll go to school. Why would he not go to public school? And so I sent him to public school and we made it to 3rd grade. And actually it was the one thing that happened that totally changed my mindset. He was struggling a lot in school. And he was always in trouble for talking too much or moving around too much and, typical boy stuff. And we pulled him out for an educational travel. So we got permission to do a 10-day vacation. A 1-week vacation. And we went to 10 national park sites. Educational, fun, cool stuff like that. And they were like, all right, have him write a report on it and he can present it to his class when he gets back. And he got back. He made his little project. He was so proud of it. His teacher didn't even look at it, didn't let him present it, and then gave him this stack of busy work to complete of stuff that he had missed. And I was furious. And I was like, this kid probably learned more in this week than he will all year in your classroom. And so we pulled him out the next week because I was just like, this is not working. He hates everything about this. He hates reading. He hates math. And everything was so test-based. He was so stressed out in 3rd grade. So we pulled him out and we were like, let's see if we can do this differently. We did a halfway through the year. So a 3-month trial run. And in that 3 months, he just blossomed. It was the best thing ever. And we haven't looked back.
Yeah. There you go. Well, and so what did you do? What was your daily rhythm once you got started?
So that took us forever to kind of get used to. What did they say to do? You're supposed to kind of de-school after you pull them out of school. And so, at the time I had a 3rd grader and then my other 2 were young. I think maybe 4 and 1 or something. So we weren't doing a ton, but obviously in 3rd grade, you don't need to do a ton. I'd say we focused on reading for enjoyment, not for picking apart sentences, because that was one thing that I really wanted him to love reading and he had hated it at the time. And so we focused on that and we focused on, not pushing specific things, just spending time on what I considered the 3 basics every day, reading and writing and math. And then the rest of it was just hands-on stuff because he's a boy and he wants to move. I wanted his little brothers to do stuff with him.
That's awesome. So when you got started, was it I'm trying to think of the right way to word this. How big of a jump was it for you personally? You went from public school to homeschooling. What did that look like for
It's so
you?
funny because everyone's like, I don't have the patience to be a homeschool mom. And I was like, I have zero patience. And my three boys are like just off the wall, wild, crazy. And so, in fact, none of us are really very patient. And so that was the hardest part for me, moving into a teaching scenario versus just regular parenting. But I found I liked it a lot more than I thought I would, because especially now that they're growing, I was learning stuff along with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's unit studies, and I'd be like, oh, wow, we're learning this about rocks. And that's so cool because I never knew that either. And so and then they would feed into my excitement. And it ended up being really one of my favorite parts.
So with homeschooling, what have you done to make sure that their character and that sort of thing are in place? What does character look like being involved in the homeschooling process for you and your family?
And that's a big thing with me. I honestly could care less the amount of facts they know. Like I've said this before, like I don't care if they know all the state capitals. I'd rather them be well-rounded individuals that have hobbies, that know who they are, that are passionate about things, teaching how to do basic everyday life skills over, taking tests well and things like that. So I'd say more of our homeschooling is based on self-discovery and kind of turning that into learning as a lifestyle, and how it kind of fits you as a person.
That's awesome. Yeah. What does your travels look like with that?
Oh, and that's a big part of it. We travel almost full time now. We go away, I'd say at least 3 times a month.
Wow.
Sometimes 4. And we do a lot of road trips. So again, traveling to us is meeting an old man at a coffee shop that used to follow the Grateful Dead and listening to him play guitar, which actually happened randomly at a coffee shop in Pittsburgh. And so it's really helped my kids see more of the world and the different ways to live life and the different jobs available and just real life stuff.
Have y'all always traveled like this? I know you talked about the trip that you had that it ended up pushing you to pursue homeschooling. Has this always been a part of your life?
No, not at all. So we started all these big changes. One of my youngest was 2, I would say, and he's 9 now. So it's been about 7, 8 years. And, we used to be the 1 vacation a year family, because that's just how much vacation time we had. 1, maybe 2 vacations. And then when I stopped working at my regular 9-to-5 job, it became more of, okay, well, we could go camping more often, maybe once a month. And so we did that for a year or 2. We're like, oh, we could totally do more. Because the more my kids travel, the more instead of having 3 kids to take care of, it was 3 kids helping me. They could set up the tent. Right. You know what I mean? At least we did a lot of camping. So we progressively added more and more and more. And then I stumbled on my job in travel photography. Now we're traveling for work, and they travel with me and they get paid too. And it's turned into a whole big different lifestyle.
Oh my goodness. What kind of business skills are you able to teach them because of that?
Well, and that's another thing, that my youngest has had an interest in photography. So he knows how to use a fancy digital camera. And my other son really has an interest in video editing. He's been working with video and stuff like that. And they'll be a YouTuber, but actually isn't, because he doesn't actually post anything online. So no, I think they've learned a lot of skill sets that I didn't even know existed as a kid, and things that I think will help them have more fulfilled life later on. Stuff I didn't know existed as a kid. I didn't know you could just go live at national parks and work there.
Really?
A lot of kids did that in their 20s. That was their summer job. You just go live at national parks and work there. And I was like, what? Why did I not know this? And so I hope
cool.
All these outdoorsy trades, or maybe these media traits that they're learning, they can take those on, maybe go into marketing, stuff like that. So I don't know.
That's awesome. So you talked about earlier about your goal was to teach them a love for learning. Did that develop outside of the public school system?
I've always enjoyed learning, and I've always really, I went to college for a very long time just because I enjoyed the classes. And I should have a doctorate by now, but I don't, because I was just taking ancient history classes for fun. And so that's just always been my train of thought. And I noticed in my oldest, and that's part of the reason we pulled him out, he wasn't enjoying learning. And so I didn't see the point of it. And, I read for fun. And I think that's an important part and a big thing of my happiness. And I wanted my kids to want to read for fun. And I wanted them to, how I found my travel photography business is because I wanted to learn something new. And so I learned about photography. And again, it's because I never want to stop learning. And I really wanted that for my kids, because I feel like it's been a never ending source of joy for me learning new things. And I want them to have that too.
So I was a public school kid too, and I went to college and I did all those things. But I felt like there was a gap where I was like, okay, I'm not reading anymore. Where I'm just like, I'm not doing this. And then I fell back in love with reading afterwards. And so it's funny to hear you say that. It sounds like you yourself are modeling for your kids what it means to be a lifelong learner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I know how much of a difference it's made in my life. And I've seen people in my life that don't have that same passion for learning. And honestly, they seem kind of miserable, or at least less of a passion for life. And so, yeah, the reading thing, like that's a rule I even have. You don't have a bedtime if you're reading. So you can stay up as late as you want, as long as you're reading. And that's one thing that kind of gets them.
Nice. Very cool. So what is the coolest place y'all ever been to? And how many places have you been at this point as a travel family?
I have no idea, actually. I've lost count. In fact, I've been trying to compile them in a spreadsheet, because it's gotten to the point, and I'll be like, I know we went to this place with this cool tree, and like, when was that? So the coolest place, it's funny, if I ask my kids, they say it's Texas. We explored the Texas area, but we did it. It was our first time we did a video commercial with Outside Magazine. Outside has their own TV channel. And so we did this TV show for them. And so we had a 10-person camera crew following us around while we explored this really cool parks in Texas. And so I don't know if it's that my kids just really love Texas, because it was really cool. And we ate steaks the size of our head, and we rode horses, and that was awesome. But also they thought it was just so funny that we had this huge camera crew and we had mics on. Like, that was definitely a next level trip for us that we hadn't done before. My favorite, we really like West Virginia. I think that's my favorite.
Really?
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's just so pretty and so not touristy and not crowded. And it's just one of the few places you can still go to within a couple hours of Baltimore that, I don't know, doesn't have that overdone feeling. In fact, we're going to West Virginia again on Monday because we just love it there so much. And it's beautiful. So as a photographer, it's great. And it's just never crowded. It's just, I feel like it's one of those hidden gems that, I don't know if it's hidden, but it feels hidden because it's never crowded.
Well, I hear so many people talk about the West. I'm from the East Coast, so that the West feels magnificent. Holy smokes, the one time I've been, honestly. But to hear Texas, that is super cool. I think that is super neat.
I don't know. It was just the experience or what. Well, the other one too, in fact, we're doing it again. Their second favorite, everybody's, is Utah, because it is otherworldly. Like Utah is like, you're on a different planet. It's crazy. We're extending it and doing 2 weeks out there, because we only did like a couple days last time. And my kids were just like, what? It's this place.
It's wild. So how did you get started even in traveling as often as you do at this point?
That was another one of these like slow, like I didn't even know this kind of life choice career existed. And so it's funny. So super wild kids, we discovered outdoor stuff, but also small kids. So hiking with kids when they're toddler age is not very fast hiking. And I would get just very bored, AKA that no patience that I have. And so I picked up a camera because I was like, oh, we're going to stand and look at rocks for 20 minutes every hike. And so I started taking photos. And I found that I really loved it. And I seem to have an eye for it, which is funny because I don't consider myself creative. And at the time I was volunteering for a nonprofit called Hike It Baby. And that was, it was basically group hikes for families. And I got very involved with that. And I started doing volunteer photography for them. And through that, they introduced me to two brands. I started working with LL Bean and Merrill and Burley Strollers. And so I just take pictures and give them pictures. And, sometimes I get free hiking shoes for my kids. And I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And the more I did that, and again, then I got into Instagram, and then more brands would find me. And I finally realized, oh, I can get paid for this. What? Okay. And, each year I've, I dove into the business side of it. And each year I learn a little more on how to monetize what started as like just a hobby with photography.
Oh, that's super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, it was, and it's accidental. And everyone's like, how do you do it? I was like, I don't know. I just took a lot of pictures and then people started giving me money. And so
There you go. Very cool. So with your kids, like with homeschooling, did you pick out a certain curriculum when you started with them? And how did that evolve as your business took off?
Yes. So when I've used a lot of curriculums, and for a while I was kind of piecing them together. We tried to use experience-based, more hands-on based curriculums. So we really like Blossom and Root, and I use Torchlight and Build Your Library because a lot of them are more unit studies. And then I can also piece together things that I want. So it's easy to be like, okay, we're studying the American Revolution. Well, I can easily throw in some field trips for that. And maybe we can make some old Revolutionary War recipes, and then we do this, this, and this. And so we've been kind of using curriculums loosely to make unit studies paired with all the possible activities that we can do with it, and then adding our travels into that too. And then I try to do seasonal based studies. So we'll do science-based, nature-based stuff in the spring and summer months. And then we'll do more of our history stuff as far as travels go and studies fall through winter.
Super neat. Super neat.
Yeah.
How did that evolve as you started traveling? Because I know there's a lot of families that are like, okay, I would love to take on this kind of lifestyle. I'm homeschooling my kids, but it looks like at my kitchen table. How did you evolve it to the point where it is now?
So again, we started with little day trips. Like I was like, okay, we live on the East Coast. We're studying American Revolution. I can go to this, I don't know, Mount Vernon that's an hour away and do a field trip. And then I was like, or we could drive a few more hours and go to Williamsburg and spend like a whole week there learning about colonial America. And then it just kind of steamrolled into being like, okay, well, there's history everywhere you go. Like, you know what I mean? We're studying Native Americans. Let's go up north and see one of the original Native American sites and things like that. So I basically I took places we wanted to go and things we wanted to learn and realized there's kind of something to learn everywhere you go. And it really adds to the learning. I remember something I say, there's very little I remember from learning in a book, but I remember most field trips I took as a kid. And so most of our stuff is field trip based. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's what my kids are going to remember.
Nice. Absolutely. So would you consider yourself to be more of an unschooler at that point? Like what niche do y'all fit in, or you're just more like eccentric, I guess, at that point?
No, I think at this point we're pretty close to an unschooler. Because we travel so often, our daily routine changes a lot. And some days we'll sit down and we'll do schoolwork all day and it'll be a regular day, but that's not a lot of the days. Last week, we were at the Cornell Museum of Ornithology and, learning about birds and things like that. And like my kids learned a lot, but did they sit down and do their writing and math that day? No. But they were still learning, and they were learning through experiences, and math can wait until the next day when we're not out at a museum or hiking or something.
Well, and it sounds like you have a list of priorities that you turn to in your homeschooling. I've looked at your Instagram and I've looked at some of the things that you posted, and it seems like you're very heavy on priorities are what we focus on and everything else comes later. What are your priorities when you're teaching your kids, and how did you format those? How did you form those?
So I found that there's three things that, we're all kind of, my whole family, we're all kind of ADHD, hyperactive, like all kind of all over the place. And so I found these three things that all of us kind of need to be the best versions of ourselves. And I actually have my kids, they each have a journal, and they write this out each morning of their goals for the day. And so today I will challenge my mind and they'll write something. And again, that can be anything that's challenging their brain. It can be playing a game, or it can be reading a book. It can be learning how to do something, anything that challenges their mind. And then the next one is I will challenge my body. And that's something active or physical that I want them to do. And again, this is also like kind of prepping them to make learning fun and part of their life and not just something they check off. And then the last one is I will get outside and something they're going to do outside for the day. And so those are our three priorities. And I feel like may not be, what math level is your kid? I have no idea. They do math. We use an online program because it's easier with 3 of them. But my priority is not that they have some made up grade level of what they're learning. It's just that they're constantly pushing themselves to learn more in those 3 areas.
Yeah. I think that's probably forming grit for them because they're having to be resilient in like, okay, I'm going to challenge myself today. I love that. That is so good. I'm going to have to steal that.
Yeah, no, it's great. And that's my thing too, that I want them to have goals because I feel like a life without goals is not, it's boring. It's not exciting. It doesn't keep us moving. It doesn't keep it exciting. And so I want them to just constantly be setting goals for themselves.
This episode is sponsored by the Home Edify app. The Home Edify app was created by my husband and I as we were trying to figure out how can we store our kids' educational journeys in a digital format so that we can keep it forever. If you're like me and have toddlers, you know that a book can be destroyed in less than 10 seconds if given the opportunity to them. So I wanted something that I could put tasks in on my phone, that it would be there forever, and I could keep track of all of my kids' educational journeys as they grew. Anytime we do something educational, I type it into the app. I can plan ahead if I want to. I can check it off, and then I can get a weekly or monthly progress report sent to my email, and it tells me everything that we've done throughout the week. I can attach photos to each individual task. This has given me so much peace of mind. It has allowed me to notate things in a quick way that if I waited till the end of the day or if I waited to the end of the week, I would not be able to put it in. And on the weeks that we get sick and our schedule gets jumped around, I can go in and I can digitally move it around. This is so easy to use. It's so easily accessible and it's always there and always available. This has been a joy for me to use. And as it continues to grow and be developed, we'll be adding new features. We saw a gap in the market. We saw that there was a need in the homeschool community to have digital records. And being the lifelong learners that we are and wanting to model that for our kids, we said, okay, we're going to try to create this ourselves. And so we did. And this is our little experiment in progress that we really, really want you to be a part of if it serves you. So go to homeedify.com and there you can download the app, or you can go to the Apple Store. You can download the app. So don't want to take too much of your time. Just wanted to give you that little tidbit. Let's get back to the episode. So for record keeping, do you have to keep any records for your kids?
I moved to Maryland this year, but I'm still registered in Pennsylvania. And I haven't switched that over, but I think Maryland's actually easier. So Pennsylvania, you only have to show that they did 180 days of school, which is basically like a calendar with 180 check marks on it. And then you have to have a list of the books they've read, which you can actually get, like, you could print it out from your library. And then we do have to get what's it called? We have to see, and then for some reason, I can't think of the word. At the end of the year, you have to see someone that's registered and signs off saying that you've done school. And that's where we show like examples of our work and things like that. And, the one we use knows my boys and she's known them for a long time and she knows the kind of things we do, so sometimes I can be like, well, here's pictures of us at Mesa Verde visiting an old Native American cliff dwelling. And that's, that's some history that we did. And so it's not always essays and paperwork that we're showing. So it's not hard as far as documenting things.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I didn't realize that Maryland had for most places, it's like, okay, you show 180 days and keep a record yourself, but you don't actually have to meet with somebody. So to know that you're doing the type of lifestyle that y'all do and it still meets the guidelines for a state as strict as Maryland, that's good to know.
Well, no, that's for Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Maryland, you either have to meet with someone and theirs is very strict, or you can just into an umbrella.
Okay.
Where you don't have to show anything, which is even easier than Pennsylvania. So as a Pennsylvania, and it all depends on who you get for your evaluator. That's what the name is. Who your end of year evaluator is. Again, ours knows our lifestyle and is fine with it, but I've met evaluators that it depends on who you get and you choose who you get. They want to see weekly work for every single subject and this and 52 weeks and then like a full calendar of what you studied each day. And so it's crazy. So it's really who you have evaluate you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's good to know too. Doggone.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So
That's why some
with
people think Pennsylvania is really difficult to homeschool in, but it's not. It's you just have to do your research.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and it goes into that whole lifelong learning process. Like teaching your kids is a lifelong pursuit of learning yourself, of trying to figure out what all you have to do to meet
Yeah,
the
well,
requirements.
and that's a big thing too with high school. So we're in high school now, and that's a whole different thing. That's when you
Oh,
start to question yourself. I'm like, okay, I remember what I was doing in high school. Like, can I teach that? I don't think I can teach physics. You know what I mean?
right.
Or chemistry, because all the chemicals and stuff that you did, I don't do that at home. So
Right.
there's a lot of questioning, especially now that we're in the upper years.
How's that feel?
I'll be honest, I know families that have continued homeschooling through high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask him every day, I was like, is this still fulfilling you? Or do you want to go to public school? And he very
Mm-hmm.
adamantly does not want to go to public school. And so I just have to trust that, again, instilling hard work and a love of learning will help him go on later in life more than it would be. Okay, maybe he's never used a Bunsen burner. Hopefully he
Right.
doesn't need that later in life, but
Oh yeah. Well, he's learning all kinds of skills too. I mean, even just the travel aspect, being able to
well,
travel, you know?
and the thing is, too, you and I both went through the whole thing. You go to school, got our college degree, you went into a job in your field, and then I don't know anyone that is working in their field that they went to college for. In fact,
Mm.
I know one person that is using their college degree, and I just don't want to push my kids into that, knowing that college honestly is really not necessary unless they really want to just be a doctor or a
Oh
lawyer
yeah.
or something like that. And at this point, I just want them to find what they're passionate about and pursue that, whatever it is, and not waste 4+ years and go into mountains of debt just for, like I did, to become a travel photographer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I tell my husband that all the time too, because like I was on the trajectory to go to law school. And I think back and I'm like, had I went to law school, I would be in mountains of debt. I wouldn't be able to stop working. Like I wouldn't be able to do that, you
Yes.
know?
And then you're literally trapped and you're stuck in
Oh,
this job. I was lucky. I
yeah.
actually didn't have any college debt, but my dad took care of my college thing. And so most people were in that boat that they just were, well, I guess it's just what I'm doing until I'm 65. And I'm glad I was able to get out of it myself. And I hope my
Oh, yeah.
kids never feel that trapped either.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. So would you recommend homeschooling for every parent? I'm curious as to your opinion on that. And I don't have like a predetermined viewpoint on that myself. I'm just curious out of pure curiosity.
No, and that's the great thing about it. Not everybody needs to homeschool. And there's certain things about public school that I wish we could public school. Oh my gosh, it would be so much easier, I think, to be able to just send my kids off on the bus and wave goodbye and get done. And I love my job. I love my career that I found, and it would be easier without also homeschooling kids at the same time. And so I totally get people that have maybe the career that they love, or if they have kids that are thriving in public school, absolutely they should keep doing that because that's fantastic. I've learned though that my kids aren't the type that thrive in public school. Well, I have one kid that I think would actually be great in public school, but he doesn't want to go because my youngest, he's just like, I wouldn't be able to camp every week. Why would I go to school?
That would restrict me, Mom. What are you
Right?
talking
He's
about?
like, what do you mean? I just go every day? That sounds horrible.
No.
It's not for everybody. It's hard. It has its own challenges. It definitely holds me back from some things, but the things that I've decided to prioritize in my life way far outweigh any kind of difficulties we have. And so I think there's a lot of people that would benefit that aren't doing it because they're scared, because the jump is the hardest part. And it's like a whole year or two of getting into the hang of things. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's great for some people and it doesn't need to happen for some other people.
Yeah. So what would you say for the mom who's like, okay, I would love to do that. I would love to be with my kids. I would love to teach them, but they are worried about what you were saying earlier about how having the patience to do it.
My goodness, that's your least of your worries. The patience, nobody has patience. Nobody's patient with kids, but you just learn, you figure it out. I mean, and you don't even really need patience. That probably maybe gives my kids a little extra fire, knowing I'm not going to sit there for an hour while they twiddle their thumbs. And you adapt and you learn. Nobody thinks they're going to teach their kids calculus, but you figure it out when the time comes. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Wow. So what would you say to a mom who's like me? I have a kindergartner. So I was public schooled. What's your suggestion for jumping into this straight from the beginning?
So if your kid has been in school, give them a chance to deschool. Like, don't try to copy public school at home. And then find what your kid loves and do more of that. And so for my kids, it was science experiments and things that are messy and things like that. And so we just really, really honed in on that. And we spent a whole year doing Harry Potter school. And we did everything around Harry Potter. Every single class was Harry Potter themed. And, we started a whole group of Harry Potter potions. And then at the end of the year, when they completed all their studies, we went to Harry Potter World in Florida. And so take what your kid loves and make it educational. You can make pretty much anything educational. And then once your kid associates learning with fun, they are just going to thrive no matter what you do.
How long did it take your kids to associate learning with fun?
I saw a difference in my oldest within months, again, because my biggest thing is that he hated reading. And I hated that he hated reading because I wanted him to love it like I love reading. And so it's because the school was so stressed on what reading level he was on. And I was constantly hearing, oh, he's at a low reading level. And I was like, I don't care if he's reading. He's reading. I don't understand. And then I saw the books they were giving him. And I was like, I wouldn't want to read this either. This would be miserable. And so I started letting him read whatever he wanted to read, which was graphic novels, which I hate graphic novels. I think they're silly. But it made him love reading. And so he went on. He likes, even at 15, he likes books with pictures. He will read encyclopedias for fun. But the school was saying, no, you have to read fictional chapter books to be a reader. But he didn't like that kind of reading. And so me giving him the ability to kind of read whatever he wanted to made him love reading. And again, that happened in the span of a few months. Just me not telling him what to read, letting him have his own control over what he read.
That sounds like my husband. He will pick up an encyclopedia, anything that is actual information based and true. He doesn't hate literature. Like, he can get into the cultural things and that, he likes Moby Dick, that sort of stuff. But in school, he was never the type to want to read fictional literature. And now he loves reading. And so what you're saying with your kid, I definitely see that even in my 30-year-old husband, of just that didn't serve him in that setting until later in life when he found a love for reading.
Yeah, it's all of us. When I was in high school or in school, period, I hated almost all the books they gave us to read. Like, if that was my only experience with reading, I wouldn't read for fun. Think of all the books you read in high school. They were miserable. Nobody wants to read those books.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, okay, I have to give a little bit of a pushback here. I actually love those books.
Yeah, really? Okay, so maybe that's me then. I can't remember, is it To Kill a Mockingbird or something? I just was reading that.
Yeah.
And I was, oh my gosh, you have it right there. No. And you know what else? The thing that got me in school where they'd be like, you couldn't just read and be like, this is a good book. It'd be like, all right, you read this and it moved you. Let's pick it apart and see what these words are and these aren't.
Oh, so you're also a woman's travel guide. What led you to that? And what does that look like with what you're doing as far as teaching your kids as well?
Yes. So that nonprofit I was talking about, Hike It Baby, which was basically group meetups for moms, for families to get out with their kids. And usually ended up being a bunch of moms with kids. Dads were loud, but my youngest was very clingy. And I nursed him. And I remember the day he stopped nursing and I was like, I can leave him for a couple hours. I'm going to go on a kid-free hike. And I invited some other moms and I started this group called Solo Sundays, which would be moms getting a kid-free couple hours just to go hike together. And so turns out a lot of moms needed that. Kids are just kind of 24/7. You're overtouched. You're over everything. And so it started as just this little hikes with local moms, and it blew up. And I realized how much I needed that community of women just to support and separate myself from, I'm not just a mom. I need a minute just to kind of be me. And so I realized how much I needed that. And I realized how much other women needed that. And so that became my goal, which is why I was running the Hike It Baby hiking group. And then I started the women's hiking group to help other moms that needed that break or just that companionship. And then I was running a homeschool hiking group again, just because I know how much I needed to kind of get outside with and without my kids. And then it blew up. My photography led to me doing these big women's retreats with other companies and doing photography for them. I run my own women's retreats, smaller little weekend getaways to, give women a chance to, whether they're not, maybe they don't have any friends that want to go camping and hiking. Maybe they just are newer to outdoorsy stuff and they want to try it with like a group of people. So yes, I've been doing that. I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I was doing it a lot the last 2 years and I took a step back because I was doing international women's trips 1 or 2 weeks every month. It was too much because it gets addictive. You're like, oh, do I want to go to Croatia next month? Yeah. Why would I not want to go to Croatia? And you're like, okay, I also want to be home. And so it was kind of this big balance that I kind of fought with.
Wow. So are you still doing those?
I'm not doing the international women's trips anymore, or at least to the scale that I was doing them every month or so. It was just a lot. It was too much. And frankly, it's funny. As much as I travel, I'm not a great traveler internationally because I have like a weird internal clock. And I require a lot of sleep. And so I get really tired at international trips. And it sounds so funny, but I'm just one of those people that needs a nap most of the time. And I'm actually going to do this right after we talk. I'm going to go take a nap because I take a nap today. And it was just kind of hard on me to do the big international trips. So I'm going to keep doing my little small women's outdoorsy get-togethers, but I'm not going to do the big giant international stuff anymore.
I gotcha. No, that totally makes sense. I'm a sleeper. I have to have my 8 hours of sleep. When I married my husband, my mom was like, look, she has to get her sleep. You don't understand?
No, I really do. I sleep so much and I sleep like a rock. And it's funny because like on those women's trips, I'd have roommates and they'd be like, you're out in seconds and you're like dead to the world. I was like, yeah, I'm a good sleeper.
Well,
that's my superpower.
Nice. Very cool. So if a mom wanted to join you on one of these trips, what's the process for that?
So I actually split my We Chose Adventures into 3 accounts because I was doing so much and it was like a lot going on. I split it into 3 different Instagram accounts. So We Chose Adventures is my main account, which is how it started with the whole like, hey, our kids need to be outside. This is how we do it. This is why it's awesome. And then I split my women's stuff over to She Chose Adventures. And so I run a local Maryland-based hiking group and I run free monthly women's hikes. I'll be rolling out my women's trips on there soon. She Chose Adventures. And then I do my local homeschooling meetups through Mid-Atlantic Mama.
Very cool. Very cool. So you can find Jessica on Instagram under all of those accounts. And I know your photography is amazing. It's amazing, but it's so cool to watch your videos and all of the things that y'all go and do. But any suggestions for a mom who's like, okay, I want to dive into this? What's your suggestion for someone who's not a traveler? They haven't really camped a whole lot or did that sort of thing, but they want to get their kids outside and they want to try to start adopting this sort of a lifestyle that y'all have. What are some suggestions you have for them?
Honestly, I'd say don't wait, just do it. Like I'd never gone camping before kids. I didn't camp until I was in my late 30s. I didn't own a pair of hiking boots until my late 30s. I didn't pick up a camera until I might have even been 40 now, late 30s. So it's never too late to start. Just try it. It sounds scary, but it's really not. If you can, try it with friends. And that's, again, a big thing I got through that Hike It Baby group is that we would do like camping with friends or group camping and things like that. So if you can find a community to do it, but stop thinking about it and just try it. You know what I mean? There's no reason not to. There's really very few reasons why anyone couldn't do these things. I'm not anything special. I wasn't super outdoorsy growing up. You know what I mean? I just kind of said, you know what? This is what I want to do. And I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And I would have never guessed it would have taken me here. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Wow. That is awesome. So at the end of every episode, I like to ask, what is one book that has shaped your life and made you into the person that you are today? It could be any genre. It doesn't matter what genre it is. But what is one book that you would like to share?
So actually, and going back to the love of reading thing too, this was actually my first book that made me love reading. And I've kind of been I don't know, it's always kind of stuck with me, but Anne of Green Gables from Ella Montgomery.
Really? Oh, I love that one.
My teacher, I remember I read the book in third grade and I loved it so much. My teacher let me have the copy and I still have that original copy. It's like falling apart. And through high school, I was reading all those books over and over and over again. And it was all about it was pairing, I didn't even think about it, but an outdoor lifestyle. It was very outdoor based. And just a love of life. And same thing, like she had a love of learning. And she wasn't perfect. She messed up all the time. And it was just embodied. I don't know if it's how I think of myself, but like just kind of what was important to me. So, a family and simple pursuits and just finding joy in small things.
I love that. Anne of Green Gables is one of my favorites. I read it to my kindergartner a couple weeks back, and she even loved it. She loved Anne. And so I see what you're talking about too, because she is so adventurous. She dives into all kinds of different things. She's spunky, has a tenacity for life, and she's super gritty. Oh my goodness, talk about grit. She's super gritty.
Yes. And my goal is to keep a positive frame of mind, even like in the worst things. And I feel like she's a really good example of that.
Well, Jessica, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. It has been a blast. Is there anything you'd like to share before we close out this episode?
No, I don't think so. This has been so fun. I've loved chatting with you.
Oh, yeah. And if you want to find Jessica, she's at We Chose Adventures, and then She Chose Adventures. And then what's the last one?
Mid-Atlantic Mama is my locals corner for like Maryland, East Coast based stuff. And also I do homeschool meetups on that one.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Home Edify podcast. All literature, book recommendations, and websites mentioned in today's show will be linked in the details below. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. And don't forget to follow along on Instagram at Home Edify Podcast to enjoy clips from our latest episodes and day-to-day encouragement. Our prayer is that you were inspired to seek after your child's heart and mind. Thanks again for listening.
So, Mom, are you done with your podcast?
Yeah, I learned so much.
Thanks for coming to the podcast. Bye.